So, Dead by Daylight is nearing its 10th anniversary, and I figured with the celebration on the horizon, why not make a video talking about what I like and don't like about each chapter that released when I was part of the game. So, I don't play the game, most likely due to not having a personal plan to play it, and not being able to afford it all by myself, but I can still have my parents whether you love it or not. So I got into Dead by Daylight between Words of Dread and Resident Evil Project W, when the menu was Attack on Titan. So yeah, kick us start into the game. And I've been interested in the game in general ever since. I was introduced by my stepmother who plays a game, so let me play Masters of Survival, and despite me never picking up the game before, I was literally the second to last survivor to die. Ever since I got really into the, more into the game, and here we are. With all that out of the way, let's get started. 2022. First up is Resident Evil Project W. What I like, pretty cool perks. Wesker is amazing as a killer, and the fact they split up the Raccoon City Police Department, which I heard was causing problems before they decided to split it up. What I don't like, the lack of quotes with said perks. It feels like such a miss given it brought Ada Wong, Rebecca Chambers, and Albert Wesker into the game, especially since the original Resident Evil chapter had quotes in their perks. I always liked perks with quotes underneath them more than ones that don't, because it gives more personality to the character that owns them, especially if they're original, in my opinion, but also feels the most Dead by Daylight. Next is Forest and Fog. What I like, the medieval aesthetic, the knight's appearance, and how unique the knight and Victoria's perks are. What I don't like, how fucking red the South Square map was. Also felt like it was odd that Victoria was based appearance with him basically modern clothing instead of medieval fits. I understand the lore reason why, but compared to the knight, it just feels so odd. Off even. 2023. Tools of Torment. What I like, controversial opinion, but I love Scar Morrison. Not to marry her, I'm not into women, much less women who would kill me, but it's tired of fighting this thing and just having the Survivor Spirit duo is also cool given duo survivors are exclusive to licensed chapters, until they turn without slow or awesome. Oh, and not to mention Scar Morrison's face at such words. Say what you want about her, but she knows how to live. What I don't like, the lead time and not his posts on the best, and oh my god, they did Scar Morrison so dirty with the reports she got after the chapter. Like, I know why they had to, but like, I can't help but just hate the final product. Please behavior, please. And transmission. What I like, the aggressively sci-fi aesthetic. Your Dark Force and Fog was unique, and transmission basically said I bet and drop Gabriel Soma, Singularity, and the Vodka Deepwood. What I don't like, the lore wasn't all that great, and let's not forget Old Maid for this. Like, oh my god, how the hell did Old Maid for this made the final product? Before anyone says it's just 3%, bro, you'll be surprised how much the slightest unnumbered can affect game balance. Nicolas Cage. What I like, for starters, his posts are silly and fun, his voice lines are fun to listen to, and surprisingly, his backstory actually gives lore implications for DVD lore. Plus, he is a force, and to date, the only real person adapted to DVD. What I don't like, well, it's hard to find a reason. It's Nicolas Cage. What is there not to like? Alien. What I like, Force licensed chapter, excluding Project W since it's a sequel chapter for Resident Evil, and I'm going by new IPs. Kinda nervous, you guys. I find it awesome that Alien Garden. Guillermo's power is awesome, and even though we didn't get Sigourney Weaver's like this normal voice, Ellen is still awesome. While his performance really fits her. Plus, the IP holders actually used the chapter to their advantage. As part of advertising for Alien Romulus, they added weird character as a legendary for Ellen. What I don't like, how weak both Ellen's and Xenomorph's perks felt. Chucky. What I like, a behavior actually experiment in implementing such a midget like Chucky as a killer without outright rejecting him. His power is nice and simple also. The Tiffany Valentine legendary is cool, and also it's a chapter made for this got nerfed so it wins points, much to the chagrin of Toxic Survivor mains and Soul. In fact, it's probably 9-11 for them. What I don't like, other than Friends Turning Yen, Chucky's poke is the most intensive grabbing for killers. Barry's included in situational, and while I like how unique Hex 2 can play is, it's pretty weak given its setup and the fact it's a Hex poke. Also, I felt it was a missed opportunity to have Andy be the survivor, but given Chucky was abducted during the events of Child Plays 2, where Andy was literally a child, I can understand why. 2024. Alan Wake. What I like, introduced me to the Alan Wake character and franchise. Also released on my birthday, so that's a plus. What I don't like, as usual, Alan's pokes are mid, and I think they missed an opportunity to add a map to the game with its release. All things wicked. What I like, Saber War in the Unknown feels like Dead by Daylight than humanly possible. Saber also has style. The Green Pit Square map also gets points for being unique and interesting as an addition to the Riddle Iron's realm, especially the moving fleet of it. And don't get me started on the marketing. What I don't like, Freebird's pokes are kinda weak, as long as being a mix between Sphinx Shadows and Invitation Weaving Spiders, which on the topic of that poke, this may sound like a hot take, but the Coleman injury is actually a good trailer for the poke effect. And I know it's out of behavior control, but the fact that people suddenly are known and generally with the idea is magical mechanics genuinely holds. Also, the reputation stage the players will eventually get. Dungeons and Dragons. What I like. D&D is something I've been trying to get into lately, and I'm a big fantasy nerd, so this is the chapter for me. Adding a fancy IP for an anniversary chapter is an awesome design choice of behavioral, and it opens up the floodgates for more IPs. The survivors, H3 and Bearmaw, are cool, especially since H3 is explicitly non-human. Well, not explicitly since he is an elf, but he clearly reads as non-human. The Forgotten Ruins map also repaired the Sad Square lighting problem, and the Forgotten Ruin actually became one of my favorite maps in terms of aesthetic. What I don't like, the fact that H3 and Bearmaw are one survival. If you ask me, it would have made sense for the two to be separate, especially since H3 takes up the spotlight a lot of the time. And as much as I love the Forgotten Ruins, I dislike how underutilized the dungeon part plays and the gameplay of the map. In fact, one of my dream maps is basically a underground dungeon with many torture rooms and whatnot that feels very fancy at its core. That's my dream chapter. No, dream map, sorry. Tomb Raider. But like, the introduction of one of the most badass women in gaming into the game, or pokes even versus Rachel are very dramatic and finesse actually worth using. I also like how they adapted Survivor during the auto instead of the classic one, although that version of Lawrence as a cosmetic. What I don't like. Again, I know that this is something wrong with death control, but it was controversial around the chapter since Tomb Raider is not a whole IP. Which, if I'm being honest, always confused me because we literally have Nicolas Cage in the game and y'all cheered and clap, yet you draw the line at Lara Croft, who, mind you, the version we have of her is from the Survivor trilogy. Like, it does not have to be pure horror on the lines of like other media like Halloween or something. It has to be within DVD's tone. It could be a literal kid's show for all we care, but if it's aligned to the game's tone, there's no issue. Then again, that might be a bad analogy since what I just said probably doesn't exist because, you know, Castlevania. What I like, Dracula's power, the fact its castle appears in the background, and Trevor Belmont's poke are cool, but a bit neat. And it's got its own tone, so yay! What I don't like, not gonna lie, there isn't a lot I can find that I really don't like. I guess it could be the fact that Dracula's and Trevor pokes aren't the best and are likely like But hey, I imagine if we have a Ruben Transylvanian town as part of the map, kind of similar to what we have in the trailer. Like, can you imagine how cool that is? Doomed Cores. What I like, unique killer, Hellmaster, and survivor Toy Kane, both with awesome lore, and the Ormond Lake map is cool too. Though it's taking off the Doomed Cores map, I still associate the map with the chapter since it was available for testing in this PTB. Also, Total shows the border poke is, and I make a fame for this, actually good. What I don't like, Hellmaster's power was super buggy, her pokes are very weak, Poet's invocation treacherous quotes is so weak, I don't think it's worth the perma injure, or unlike Weaving Spirals, and the worst sim of them all. You can't equip the mask Tori has on her back. 2025, Tokyo Ghoul. What I like, unique killer power idea. Also, Tokyo Ghoul is very impactful as a Dungeons and Dragons chapter because it brings anime into the design of DVD chapters. Anime, being a genre, was previously lost to cosmetics such as the Attack on Titan collection, and the Zenji Eto collection, and the Night of the Living Cat collection. What I don't like, Kevin Kaneki is always screaming in the trials. Like, I get lore-wise, it actually makes sense, but oh my god, can you shut the fuck up, Kaneki? Steady pulse. What I like, Orwell Words is awesome in terms of trans representation. That's it. That's a treat. What I don't like, I get it was inevitable given the current climate for LGBTQ people, but the transphobic outcry really hurts. But hey, at least they're all doing what is proving why we need Orwell Words and many others in media. Finance at 30s. It is something I never thought I wanted until now. It makes my FNAF kid side happy. Yes, I was a FNAF kid. I was also a WoW kid. Spinning Strike power is unique and awesome, and so is integration, helped by the fact that apparently Scott Copper was super hands-on their development, which is atypical for behavior given the experience with other licenses. Auto Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is honestly a good and faithful map. What I don't like, Spinning Strike's poke with the assumption of Phantom Theorist total And there's a heavily missed opportunity for FNAF themed cosmetics for survivors. All I got was their own 30,000 pizzeria sorts, and that's it. Which honestly, that kind of disappointed me. The Walking Dead. Well, like, the amount of perks and iconic characters integrated in the game, and Rhythm Stone's lore feels careful, and I like it. It's honestly a step away from the common treatment licensed characters get where they get head summary plus implied entity intervention. Pretty unique, and I love it when licensed characters are like allowed to feel integrated Dead by Daylight, but it just dive in, you know? What I don't like, how it basically broke the entire game. I'm not kidding. There was a bunch of bugs in the PvP that made it to launch with the sort of top though. Also, I hate the Fallen Refuge map because it was so fucking goddamn lazy. All it did was add Walking Dead elements to the map and call it a day. Like, I don't know what I know they were doing tile-based maps, but holy fuck, the final product feels so lazy and it's such a disservice to a franchise as iconic as The Walking Dead. Same as Still Grace. Well, awesome reinterpretation and adaptation of time mythology into the game, impressive both for both the virus and the kill, and the kill has a pretty awesome power. Hell, the chapter even inspired me to make my own original chapter. What I don't like, the lack of a map and the fact that both Cartoons and V-Bring and sex ports are pretty niche and situational, and let's not forget the bad PTP that loomed over the chapter. And now, our current year so far, 2026. Stranger Things Chapter 2. What I like, the Force power is awesome and his pokes alongside Dustin and Eleven's are actually strong. Not better finding with the exception of the Force held back the Clockwork, but not entirely niche either. Also love the fact they went back to the original Stranger Things survivors, Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan, and giving voice lines and even new voices. What I don't like, the surprising amount of missing cosmetics for both Eleven and Dustin given the amount of outfits they wore in Stranger Things, and also not giving Nancy and Steve their Season 5 outfits. Also missed opportunity to add a new map to the Hawkins Laboratory, especially since it had a Rainbow Root map in the files before the chapter was even announced. And speaking of the new survivor voices, I don't like Steve's new voice. I get that probably couldn't get Joe Carey, and I need to respect the actor, but Steve very sounds like Steve. In fact, I remember reading one comment that said his new hook scream sounds like a million despicable meme, and honestly, I can't unhear it. And not to mention the Zeph the Steagle and the son hate the meme card after it's gone. I'm not a fan of Steagle either, but y'all generally real for playing the contrarian card. And lastly, the most recent chapter as of right now, Arkill Come Back. Well, like, even though the map is a bit of a mortal on the eyes, Trickster's illusion is awesome beyond belief, forcing them to focus Split Depot 2. Also, Trickster's got a rework, a new survival content young before expanding the RT universe with a Legend Adaptation 2, and also doesn't mean it's candidates fire! What I don't like, despite it being a rework, Trickster's new power doesn't feel different from the Iron Change and the ranking system. I feel like Trickster's rework could have been better if you have to go for style as much as chases and hits to get your million lives faster, and not to mention some genuinely embarrassing mistakes behaving made while making the map, like literally putting Japanese in a poster despite the map being Korean. And that's all for now. Maybe way down later that night I will make another video, but right now we're all up to date from when I joined to now. Obviously that's not all, at least depending on when you're watching, but it is as of writing, recording, and uploading this. There's been a bit of a wild ride. Anyways, I am Max Dragunov, who plans on researching the Fog Portal, and signing off.